From Hollywood,
My sister's Little Beaver Scout.
it's the Tom Leykis Show.
I love little beavers.
And now, here he is, Tom Leykis.
Thank you for tuning in to the Tom Leykis Show. Here we are together again on the radio, you and me here at 1-800-5800-TOM. It's 1-800-5800-866. You may have heard the big story about Charles Barkley over the weekend. Did you hear about this? Charles Barkley arrested during the early morning hours of New Year's Eve. Charles Barkley, of course, former NBA superstar who, of course, never won a championship, so he's, for whatever reason, thought of more for his off-the-court antics and his outrageousness than his actual playing days. Just the way it is. And now he's primarily known as one of the people on the panel of TNT's show Inside the NBA, which runs before, during, and after every NBA game on TNT. He's been very successful doing this TV gig. So in the early morning hours of New Year's Eve, Charles Barkley was in Scottsdale, Arizona, and he ran a stoplight. Or stop sign, actually. And he was arrested for suspicion of drunk driving. But what was really interesting about this was Barkley explained to the officer why he was in such a hurry. Charles Barkley said he was in a hurry to receive oral sex. Actually, he used a more explicit term that I can't even use the initials, but you can imagine what initials those are. And, yes, so he had a female passenger. We don't know whether the passenger was an employee at one of the local establishments or who that was, but he was in a hurry to receive oral sex. That's what the police say he said. Now, he issued a written statement. He said he was disappointed that he put himself in that situation, said he was sorry. And we'll find out what he's guilty of. You're innocent till proven guilty, but obviously something happened because Barkley apologized for it and said the Scottsdale police were just great. But a sports columnist named Jeffrey Arnold of the Portland Oregonian newspaper says in his column, and it's very verbose, I wanted to have him on the show to say it to you rather than my reading of the column, and I'm not going to read you the column, but essentially he says that TNT should fire Charles Barkley. Why should he fire Charles Barkley? Well, why should TNT fire Charles Barkley? Well, among other things, they go on to say here in this column, if you continue to scroll down on and on and on and on through a very, very long column, there's all this talk about him previously saying he's not a role model, blah, 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 blah. But what he says here, when you get right down to the meat of it, he says, what Barkley does in his personal time is his business. But he does have a responsibility to present a positive image of his employer, particularly when he appears on television and tries to project an image of moral correctness. Does he really? I hadn't noticed that, and I watch Barkley all the time. Now, all I'm going to say is this. Charles Barkley, like your genial host, Tom Leykis, is largely known not just for being interesting on, in his case, television or, well, you be the judge, in my case, radio. Not just known for the job we do. We are known for being outrageous. And outrageous things happen in our lives. We do outrageous things. We say outrageous things. And we are hired by various employers over the years because we are outrageous. We are hired for our gigs, and I'm speaking about myself. I've worked at various companies, and when we are hired, it's like, oh yeah, go be outrageous. Do what you gotta do. I know, as the kind of personality I am, that this incident, while unseemly, not tasteful, whatever that is, tasteful, will only bring more attention to Charles Barkley and TNT and the NBA pre-game show, post-game show, during the game show that Charles Barkley appears on. This will be good for Charles Barkley and TNT. TNT should not fire Charles Barkley for this. TNT shouldn't have any comment. TNT eventually could release a comment saying that, we'll let the justice system figure out what's right and what's wrong, and then we'll look at it later, whatever. But the bottom line here is that if Charles Barkley ends up going to alcohol re-education classes or ends up getting sentenced to AA or something like that, this should not affect his gig with TNT. The days when people are shamed for doing this stuff are gone. I don't care what anybody says. We've talked about drunk driving on this program before. Unless you injure or kill somebody, the public doesn't care. And you know why the public doesn't care? Because so many people have DUIs. You have one, your brother has one, your father has one, your sister has one, your mother has... Somebody you know has one, if not you. So this is certainly not a reason a guy should... This is not a reason a guy should lose his job. Especially since his job is built upon a history of being outrageous. He's an outrageous person. What was that fight he got into that time at that pool hall in Scottsdale? I forget exactly what happened there. Yeah, I know it was sticks, but what happened there? Did someone go through the window there? I mean, something outrageous happened then. I mean, the guy's been involved in all kinds of incidents on and off the court. And when TNT hired him, they knew what they were getting. And all of this controversy about Charles Barkley, like us having this conversation, like the guy in the Portland Oregonian who wrote the column today, Jeffrey Arnold. Actually, it was yesterday. Jeffrey Arnold. I mean, all of this is only going to make Barkley more popular than ever. How many people now are going to tune in to the next NBA broadcast on TNT to see what Charles Barkley has to say about this? Are you kidding me? Everybody's going to be tuning in. Everybody's going to want to hear what he has to say. And the average basketball fan doesn't care. This is the guy who said over 10 years ago, I'm not a role model. He's not a role model. End of story. If you're having your kid tune in to the TNT pregame show on NBA games to see Charles Barkley, the role model, he already told you he's not a role model. So you can't use that as an excuse. He told you, I'm not a role model. You can't use that as the reason to get rid of him. TNT knew that he was not a role model when they hired him. So the best thing TNT could do is stay the course, keep him on the air, make some of the correct noises. Yeah, we certainly are concerned, and we'll look into it, and we'll deal with it accordingly. Blah, blah, corporate, blah, blah, blah. But the bottom line is they should leave him there. They shouldn't suspend him, not even for a day. Just leave him on the air. And their ratings are going to go up. Am I wrong about this?
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866. The Tom Leykis Show.
Tom Leykis Show. At 1-800-5800-TOM. That is our telephone number. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for being part of our program. We appreciate it. All right. Charles Barkley of the TNT NBA pregame, postgame show inside the NBA. Arrested on the morning of New Year's Eve and charged with a DUI. Said he was in a rush to go and get oral sex. What should TNT do? A reporter, actually a columnist for the Portland Oregonian newspaper, says, fire him. No. Michelle on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom.
Hey.
Usually I agree with you, which is unusual. But in this case,
well, wait a minute. If you usually agree with me, that wouldn't be unusual. That would be usual.
Well, I think for a woman, it's unusual for women to agree with you.
I see.
But I don't think that it's accepted by society. I don't think that people overlook it as much as you're saying they do. I've got a huge family. I've got lots of friends. You know, I don't know a single person with a DUI, and it would be
well, that could just be that the enforcement in your area is not up to snuff, because I can tell you that here in Southern California, everybody knows somebody who's had a DUI. Everybody.
Well, I have friends down there. I've got friends in L.A. I've got friends all over. And I honestly do not know anybody with the DUI. And I don't think that it's acceptable. When you did that show last Friday where you had people calling in that were drinking while they were driving, I thought it was completely disgusting. Because for people to put other people at risk for their own pleasure is irresponsible, and you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a car.
Well, fine. I have no problem with suspending somebody's license if they're charged and convicted of having driven drunk. I have no problem with them being put in jail if they are convicted of driving when drunk. But this has nothing to do with whether somebody can have an iconoclastic opinion on a basketball show on television.
Well, that is true, except that a public figure, I think, has to be held to a higher standard than your average Joe on the street. Because you've got young kids looking up to these guys.
Wait, the guy already said before he was hired by TNT, I am not a role model. They knew when they hired him that he did not hold himself out as a role model, that he did not intend to be hired to be a role model, and they hired him anyway. You would have a very hard time making a case that the guy is a role model, because if he says he's not and you hire him anyway, then he's not.
Well, I understand that. However, I think that regardless of whether that's what he wanted to be or not, if you're in a public arena like that, you are held to that standard. You are expected to behave and perform a certain way.
Well, you say that, but come on. What about all the stories about Lindsay Lohan and Paris Hilton? And I mean, the list goes on and on.
They disgust me as well.
Yeah, but guess what? I mean, the fact is that people are getting DUIs at a rapid clip, and everybody's not getting fired from their gigs as a result.
Well, I don't know that being fired is the way. I do agree that I think maybe that's a little extreme, but I think a suspension.
But that's what you called up and said.
Well, it's hard to, you have to take each case on an individual basis. And in the case of this guy, his job doesn't entail driving. His job does not entail anything where he's actually behind the wheel of a car for his job. Am I right?
Well, first of all, he's not a driver, okay? Now, if he were a limousine driver or a truck driver, if he were driving a bus or he was driving a train, we would have a different conversation. He's a guy with a big mouth who sits on a panel of guys talking about basketball.
You're absolutely right about that. But on the other hand, he does need to take the responsibility that his employer is going to look upon this unfavorably.
Again, I don't think his employer should do anything about it. You know, I'll tell you what, if they can prove they're losing advertisers or if the ratings are going down, come back to me. But that's not what's going to happen.
But a crime is a crime no matter which way you look at it.
That is not true. People do not see all crimes as equal. There's a radio talk show host in New Orleans who was accused of murdering his wife. Of course, the radio station had no choice but to take the guy off the air. And that's it. He had no choice but to take the guy off the air. It had nothing to do with his job, but they had no choice. That's a capital crime. But if the guy was driving drunk during Hurricane Katrina, I don't think that he would have been fired from his job.
Well, now that's probably true. But again, that's a double standard, because a crime is
It's not a double standard, but it's not a double standard. People don't get, you know what? People commit crimes all the time that they don't get fired for.
But does that make it right?
I don't think people should get fired because they commit a crime. These are two separate issues, okay? One issue is the crime you committed, and I do believe that. I'm not saying that Charles Barkley should be let go. I'm not saying he shouldn't go to trial. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be adjudication in his case. I'm not saying that they don't have the right to impose a penalty on him at the civil or the civic level. If they find that he's guilty and they want to put him in jail, or they want for a period of time, or if they want to fine him or charge him court costs, they have every right and, in fact, every responsibility to do that. That's one thing. But the other thing is his job. Just because the guy broke a law does not mean he should lose his job. And we don't even know for a fact yet, because he's innocent until proven guilty, whether he even committed a crime.
Well, but you're saying that it's okay that the employer should turn the other way.
I am saying that the employer should turn the other way unless it's costing them money.
Well, I guess I don't see it that way. I see it as the guy committed a crime. He made the conscious decision.
Well, first of all, you're saying he committed a crime. A jury will decide whether he committed a crime. And my guess, this will never even go to trial. This will end up being between the prosecutor, the district attorney, the judge, and ultimately there'll be something negotiated. This will never go to trial.
Well, you're right. But, I mean, I am jumping ahead to him being convicted. But what I'm saying is he made the conscious decision to take the drink. He made the conscious decision to get behind the wheel of the car. And so do hundreds of thousands of Americans who are convicted of DUIs every year. Every year. And they're not all losing their jobs. But they're not losing their jobs over it. They should.
I don't agree with you. What does one have to do with the other?
Because when you take a job, and especially in a public setting such as this, you are representing that company in just about every aspect of your life.
But understand, what does the company want? I'll tell you what the company wants, because I'm in the advertising business. The company wants high ratings, lots of revenue coming in. That's what they want. And by the way, this may sound distasteful to you, but Charles Barkley getting arrested for a DUI and having a woman in the car and saying he was in a rush to get over and get oral sex from her will only bring the ratings up and increase the revenue to TNT. So that's their only concern.
Well, that's true, but I think that they also have the group of people that are looking at them going, you're not going to do anything, you're going to ignore this? Well,
they're not watching. They're not watching anyway.
Oh, yes, they are.
No, they aren't. Are you telling me, let me ask you a question. Are you telling me you do watch Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA?
When my husband has it on.
When your husband has it. Are you telling me your husband won't be tuned in to find out what Charles has to say about this?
He's as disgusted by the whole thing as I am.
So he won't be watching. So he won't be watching. So he won't be watching?
He probably will not. He will probably turn it off.
I do not. I don't believe you for what, especially if the Trailblazers are on. I guarantee you he will be tuned in.
Blazers. We're not Blazers fans.
All right. Well, the point is he will be watching, and so will I, and so will everybody else. Hang on a second. Isabel, what did you want to say to Michelle here?
I think you're being so ridiculous right now. Like, just because Charles Barkley got a DUI doesn't mean that anybody needs to do anything aside from, like, the court dealing with a DUI. Like, TNT needs Charles Barkley on air. And I just think, like you said earlier, Tom, like, the fact that Lindsay Lohan gets a DUI all the time, no one's tripping on that. Just because this guy... What's that?
Well, people were tripping on that. People were all over it. They were taking her job. She lost jobs because of it. Paris Hilton lost jobs.
I mean, she wasn't showing up to set. She lost jobs because she was coming into work late. That's different. If Charles Barkley came in on, was about to get on air and was drunk, that's one thing. But if he wants to go out and have a drink and get in the car and drive, like, I don't agree. I don't think he should be doing that. But at the same time, I don't think TNT should be firing him. And you're being ridiculous and thinking that your husband's not going to be watching.
Well, like I said to Tom, I said I would imagine he wouldn't. I don't know it for certain. I know for a while he's not going to watch because he was pretty pissed off as I was. Oops, sorry.
By the way, let me read you a story about Charles Barkley, okay? You say your husband has watched Barkley on TV and he's now disgusted? Let me read you a story about Charles Barkley. Dateline, Orlando, Florida. Charles Barkley was arrested early Sunday for hurling a bar patron through a plate glass window after the man tossed a glass of ice at him. Police said that Barkley told the victim as he lay bleeding on the ground, "You got what you deserve. You don't respect me. I hope you're hurt."
He's a disgusting individual.
Right? And you would not watch him after you heard that he did that, right?
No, I wouldn't.
And your husband probably wouldn't watch after that either.
If he knew about it, no, probably not.
Right. Well, this story occurred on October 27th, 1997.
Like I said, he wasn't aware.
Your husband knew exactly who he was watching when he tuned in to watch Charles Barkley on TNT.
I don't know that he was aware of that incident.
Oh, come on. Now, you tell me. Now you're saying your husband is stupid. He doesn't read the paper.
No,
he's
I'm
ill-informed. Come on. Charles Barkley, look, this one story will tell you all you need to know about Charles Barkley and all the various things that have happened to him. Charles Barkley, before that time, let's see. In August of 97, jury rejected a $550,000 lawsuit for a man who claimed Barkley beat him up at a Cleveland nightclub. In 1992, Barkley and NBA player Jason Williams were accused of being in a bar fight in Chicago in 1992. Barkley was acquitted the same year of misdemeanor battery charges brought by a man who said Barkley broke his nose outside a Milwaukee bar. The list goes on. Everybody who knows who Charles Barkley is knows that he has had brushes with the law, that he has been in trouble in the past, including the people who signed his contract at TNT.
Well, maybe he does. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be disillusioned. It wouldn't be the first time. I'm just saying that for this particular incident, this is what we're talking about. I can't speak to whether or not he knew of the things that happened in the past.
So you're more offended by him driving drunk and not hitting anything than by throwing a man through a plate glass window?
No, I'm not. I am just as offended by both. I can't speak for my husband. I wouldn't speak for him. If he was on the phone, I'd let him speak for himself.
I'll bet you he knows all about Charles Barkley.
I just think it's crazy. I just think, honestly, that's the smartest thing you've said the whole time. Yeah, you're right. You are wrong. Like, the fact that you have been speaking for your husband the whole time. So I think if he was on the phone, he'd probably actually hang up for you because you make yourself sound like a retard.
All right, Isabel, Michelle, thank you so much for the calls. It's 1-800-5800-TOM. Charles Barkley charged with a DUI in Scottsdale, Arizona. And now a reporter, actually a columnist for the Portland Oregonian newspaper, says he should be fired by TNT from his job as one of the hosts of Inside the NBA. I don't agree. What do you think?
Tom Leykis. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866. The Tom Leykis Show.
Show, now heard 6 days a week, 3 to 8 p.m. as you head home, Monday through Friday, Saturdays 2 until 6 p.m. on 97.1 FM Talk and blowmeuptom.com. Also hear the Tasting Room with Tom Leykis Sundays from 5 until 7. That's Pacific time. 1-800-5800-TOM is our telephone number. Charles Barkley, former NBA star, one of the 4 hosts of Inside the NBA on TNT, arrested and charged with a DUI. And a columnist for the Portland Oregonian says he should be fired. I say, why? Desiree on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Hi. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the whole show. I came in toward the middle, but I totally agree with that woman who was talking in regards to him losing his job. I totally agree with that. I feel that although the company may not be losing any money, I think money has nothing to do with it. I still feel that a lot of people who drink and drive, I think we all make mistakes. But unfortunately, the ironic thing is people who typically do drink end up being okay and killing others.
Well, I'll tell you what, when he does that, certainly the network ought to look at that. But he didn't kill anybody. He didn't injure anybody. And the law will take care of itself.
I agree with that, but I still I'm still fixed on the fact that I do think he should be terminated. I mean,
but you haven't explained why.
Again, because you're still hopping on the fact that he didn't hurt anyone or no one was killed, but the fact remains that it could have happened.
Well, the fact is, he has a laundry list of allegations against him from the past. Charles Barkley is not a nice guy. Okay? Charles Barkley has been in a number of situations where he's gotten into physical altercations with people.
And I agree with that.
And when TNT hired this guy, he had been in court many, many times for various violations of the law that injured people way more than being pulled over in Scottsdale with a girl in his cup.
Right. Well, I feel that, right, he's not a nice guy. But even that example you gave to the woman before.
I mean, do you think he should have been hired in the first place?
Well, no, because I think they did hire him on the pretense of his type of personality he has and the fact that they thought that with him being, I guess, I don't know, wild or whatever kind of description you would label
That's
him.
right. They put him on because he's wild. Absolutely.
Right, but I think that they did feel that it would draw people to that. But I think
that's right. That's the business there. That's the business I'm in. That's the business they're in.
But he's gone too far with the DUI.
Being accused of throwing someone through a plate glass window, punching people out, what have you, that was okay. That was okay. But now he's gone too far.
Of course not. Of course, punching people, well, some people seem like they deserve it, but of course that's not okay.
But if they hired him knowing what kind of person he was, why would they fire him now?
Because, in my opinion, DUIs are serious. He could have...
So, worse than actually hurting someone is the fact that you could have hurt someone.
Well, that's true. But sometimes why wait around for something like that? Obviously, he's escalating in his behavior.
Well, the law is not waiting for it. The authorities in Scottsdale, Arizona are going to prepare a case. And at some point, his attorney and the district attorney are going to sit down and they're going to negotiate some kind of plea bargain. And you know how these things go. That's what's going to happen and it's going to be done.
That's true. I agree with you. But again, I still think he should be fired. Be honest, but again, you don't give a concrete reason why a guy who was hired on the premise of being outrageous, on the premise of having had run-ins with the law over a long period of time, why they would want to fire him now. Why is this more serious? Why is the fact that he could have hurt someone worse than actually hurting someone? Well, first of all, it's not even a maybe. I am somewhat biased. I believe anyone who drinks and drives should be fired from their job.
But they're not.
It has anything to do with related or not.
But you know what? They're not. They're not. And the reason they're not, now you live here in Southern California. Do you know anyone who has a DUI?
Personally, no.
Really?
Yes, really. I'm not lying because everyone makes mistakes, but I purposely try and associate myself with people that don't really drink heavily. And if they're going to drink, they're going to be responsible and stay their behinds at home. Or wherever their setting is, they would think not enough to... See, my thing is this. I mean, I drink not a lot, but the fact is I would never get behind the wheel because the fact is not only could I hurt myself, but someone else, but that's what's wrong with everyone. No one ever thinks about anybody else.
Yeah, but again, this is not about whether he thinks of other people. This is a matter... Time Warner, which owns TNT, they need to get the largest number of people to watch that show.
Right.
And this is by the way, this is going to be great for them. The ratings are going up.
People, Tom, first of all, I'm a big fan.
It's going to be fantastic.
But everything boils down to you with dollars and cents, and everything is about generating money.
Guess what? By the way, that's what companies are in business to do. Make money.
Okay, see, but I guess, again...
They're not in the morality business. They're not in the teaching people a lesson business. They're not in the educating people business. They're in the selling advertising for money business. That's the business they're in. If I own stock in Time Warner, which from time to time I have, by the way, if I own stock in Time Warner, I don't want them teaching people a lesson. You know, if they have a rap artist on one of their record labels and the guy gets arrested, I don't want them dropping him from the label. I want to make the money from all the CDs that guy's going to sell.
I totally understand, but getting back to like the woman said, I feel like it's almost like they're condoning this by just turning the other way and doing nothing.
But I don't really care what their opinion is about drunk driving. I care about watching an entertaining show. They care about selling as many T-Mobile phones as they can. That's the business they're in.
I understand that. Again, I still feel that he should be fired.
I know you keep saying that, but you don't make a compelling argument. Again, I'm telling you, TNT they are not a religion. They are not a school. They are not a church. They are an advertising sales business. That's what the business they're in.
Okay, well, let's put a spin on this then. Well, let's say, like the other woman said, there are also a group of people that might be offended that agency that he works for didn't do anything, which could cost them money as well. Although they're not in morality business. You could put a spin on it that way as well.
That what?
Okay, what I said was this. I said we could also put a spin on it, which is this. Okay, there's also a group of people that might feel that with the agency not doing anything, that they're condoning drinking and driving. And they might.
I don't care if TNT condones drinking and driving.
No. What I'm saying is that they might also lose money by a group of people feeling that.
If they do, I'm sure, if they can prove that, I'm sure that Mr. Barkley's agent will be contacted and that conversation will be had. But it's not up to you to decide or the public to decide. By the way, here's how the public will decide. They will or they won't watch Charles Barkley on Inside the NBA.
So you feel like, let's put him back on and see what the public does.
I'm telling you right now, I'll bet you $50 right now that when Inside the NBA comes back next week, that he will be there.
Unfortunately, I think I agree with you. I think he will.
And he'll have the biggest audience. He will have the biggest audience they've ever had.
Maybe so. I hope not, but maybe so. And
there he'll be in the T-Mobile ads. Now he'll have a drunk driving attorney in his Fave 5. And everyone's going to be laughing. He's going to say how sorry he is, but they're all going to be laughing there all the way to the bank.
You know what? That's unfortunate, but I agree with you. That might be happening. But I hope not.
I'm telling you, that's what's going to happen.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, thanks again, Tom, for taking my call.
Well, thank you, Desiree. Appreciate the call. Jeff on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. How you doing? Long time, second time.
Thank you.
Hey, first of all, I got to say, I couldn't agree with you more on this. I mean, you hear about all these people that are out there getting DUIs and what have you. What's the name of this show where this guy goes out rebuilding people's homes for them? All these celebrities, when they say that move that bus, you know, these sort of things like that. And you hear about these guys all the time. I don't think that Charles Barkley, I don't think they should get rid of him at all. I think a man should keep his job. Alcohol affects people different ways. Me, it makes me a little bit more mellow. I don't know. It might make people violent. It makes them mellow. You know, what have you. So to each his own. I think, yeah, he didn't hurt anybody. He didn't kill anybody. That's the most important thing right there.
By the way, the other night on Fox Sports Net, I was watching the Laker game.
Yeah.
Did you see this on Sunday night?
Yeah.
Okay, and they've got, between periods, they've got Bill McDonald, and they've got Rick Fox.
Yeah.
All right? And Bill McDonald was pimping the upcoming halftime show. Gary, did you see this? Were you here Sunday night?
Yeah.
They're pimping the halftime show. So Bill McDonald's there by himself, and off in the distance, there's Rick Fox. And he's standing there who looks like a beer. And he's like toasting on camera.
On camera.
Come on.
That was some of the... But, you know, I think what it's going to do, like you said, it's going to build the ratings, and that's what people want to see. And to me, I like Barkley. He reminds me a lot like you because he speaks his mind.
Right.
If people don't like it, the hell with him.
Is anybody surprised that the guy got pulled over on the way to getting some oral sex? Is anyone surprised? That's exactly what you expect him to be doing.
Exactly. I'm not mad at him at all. I'm just jealous. Hey, can you take me out Kobe style, Tom?
I certainly can.
This is about us. She's so special to me. You're a beat to my heart. You're the air I breathe. She's so special to me.
Tom. 1-800-5800-TOM. 1-800-5800-866. The Tom Leykis Show.
The Tom Leykis Show coming to you from Hollywood at 1-800-5800-TOM. Charles Barkley, charged with a DUI in Scottsdale, Arizona. A newspaper columnist at the Portland Oregonian says he should be fired. Fired from TNT for doing this. Why? Derek on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom. How you doing, man?
Doing okay.
Good, man. No, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. I was telling your guy, Jason Richardson of the Phoenix Suns just got pulled over for a DUI in December. And, you know, I mean, by those rules, then he should be fired, and every other DUI person should be fired regardless of their, you know, their public status. That's just stupid. Unless there's some kind of moral clause or something, you know, he didn't break or violate a policy of TNT. He broke the law, and the law dealt with it. End of the session. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, and I think that's the way all of these things ought to be handled.
Yeah.
Now, this is not like that case, was it Jason Williams with the limo driver?
Right.
Jason Williams. And the limo driver who got killed, and there was all this talk about Jason Williams going to prison forever. Obviously, NBC had to do something about that. This is different. Nobody was injured. Nobody was even hurt in any way.
Exactly.
The law will deal with it.
And everybody that says he should get fired, I mean, they're telling me that if they happen to get in a car and drive under the legal limit of intoxication, whether they think they're drunk or not, then they should lose their jobs too. And that's stupid.
And let me tell you something. Anybody who plans to watch Barkley when he returns to television next week and then says he should be fired is a hypocrite.
You're right.
And that's the reason he's there.
Exactly.
Because TNT knows that people tune in to watch him because he's an outrageous guy.
Sales. It sells, exactly.
All this stuff on TMZ about him and stuff, are you kidding? This just burnishes his image. I might tell you, TMZ is owned by Time Warner, which owns TNT. And here's TMZ showing video of the incident on TMZ. What they don't tell you is it's the same company. Time Warner owns TMZ.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on. Anyone who thinks that they're going to fire him for this, you're crazy. They're going to fire him for this.
No, not at all.
Nor should they.
Exactly.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate the call. 1-800-5800-TOM. That's our telephone number. Here's Eric on the Tom Leykis Show. Hello.
Hey, Tom, I hope you're having an excellent day, buddy.
I am indeed.
Good for you. Hey, listen, I don't think he should be fired for the simple fact that he doesn't drive for a living. His license is not a requirement for employment. Now, I do think that he and all the other people in his position of fame, including yourself, should be held to a higher standard, or higher accountability for.
But we're not. We're not. And the reason we're not is because we're in the business of getting ears and eyeballs. That's our job. And the more ears and eyeballs we attract, the more valuable we are.
Absolutely, and I understand that. But what I'm saying, though, is whether you like it or not, or whether he likes it or not, you guys are role models.
Well, you can say that all you like, but Amy Winehouse wins Grammy Awards and keeps selling records, no matter how many times she's in trouble.
Well, I understand that, and I agree with it.
That's the way it is.
What I'm saying is there should be, I believe that there should be a higher accountability for
there
people
won't be.
who are in a role model position.
But Amy Winehouse is not in a role model position, nor is Charles Barkley.
Well, you know, Dennis Rodman once said, "I'm not a role model," but
so did Charles Barkley.
Whether he likes it or not, though, he is. There are kids that look up to these guys.
But if he tells you I'm not a role model, it's up to parents to make sure they do not idolize people who say that.
Oh, and I agree with that too. My dad was my #1 role model, but growing up as a kid, I looked up to guys like, you know, Steve Garvey and
oh yeah, Steve Garvey is a good role model.
Well, yeah, you know, but then again, I mean, I was a huge Dodger fan as a kid, and you know, then you had the...
All right, so when Steve Garvey knocked up 3 women at one time, did you stop going to Dodger Stadium?
Well, I didn't know about that.
What do you mean you didn't know about that? It was a big story.
As a kid, I didn't hear about that. What I do remember, though, is Steve Howe.
How about when you did hear about it? Did you stop going to Dodger Stadium? No.
Actually, I'm no longer a Dodger fan, but what you know, I remember when Steve Howe was in trouble with cocaine, and that did big time affect my opinion of him. Maybe not the Dodgers, but him.
And does that mean you stopped going to games? No.
Well, no, because I'm a baseball fan.
Well, there you go. So it doesn't really matter, does it?
But I became less a fan of Steve Howe.
Well, that's his problem. The point is, you continued coming. The only incentive for a company to get rid of an employee is if that employee is causing the company to lose business.
Well, yeah. I agree. I'm not saying I disagree with what you're saying, Tom. I fully agree.
And since Charles Barkley has done nothing but bring viewers in, he's done his job.
Okay. I'm just saying that there should be a higher accountability.
But there won't be. Because that is how business works.
But that's my opinion, Tom.
That is how business works. When Bill Clinton was accused of having being in the Oral Office there with what's-her-face, it didn't make any difference. And the reason was because the economy was doing great and people liked the job Bill Clinton was doing. End of story. They impeached him. They tried to throw him out. They couldn't.
Yeah, that's true.
So the world doesn't work the way you want it to work.
Well, no, I understand that. You know, you get away. You deal with.
It's not a matter of getting away with things. Charles Barkley is not going to get away with anything. If he's guilty, he'll be punished.
Well, yeah, but you know,
he'll be punished by the city of Scottsdale, Arizona.
Well, life is what it is, and we have the laws that we have for a reason, whether we agree with them 100% or not. You know, we all have our opinions. I understand and agree with just about everything you just said. My opinion varies just a touch, and, you know, that's about all I got to say.
All right, thank you for that. 1-800-5800-TOM, that's our telephone number. Anthony on the Tom Leykis Show, hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi, Tom. This is Anthony. I was listening on the radio, and the people calling in, to me personally, sound very hypocritical. Take your average Saturday night at about 2 o'clock. Pretty much every single person on the road has at least had a couple of beers in them. Charles Barkley is an entertainer. He is not a politician. He is not a teacher, and the fact that he likes to party makes him a better entertainer than if he didn't.
Well, he liked to party before they hired him.
Yeah, exactly. If he was on the air, got drunk, punched out 3 people, I would watch it 100 times over on TiVo.
I mean, I wouldn't get fired from my job because I've been a womanizer. That's what everybody knows me as. I'm a womanizer.
The reason I listen to you is because you like the party, and your audience identifies with the fact that you like the party. It's entertaining. I'm going to go pick up a 6-pack right now, and I'm getting ready to go watch the Lakers game, because that's what me and my buddies do. We drink beers, and we watch sports.
And then let me guess, you drive home, right?
Oh, personally, I'm probably going to, I work tomorrow, so I'm probably going to stay home. But if I was at a sports bar, I'd probably have a couple and drive home.
Ah, there's the truth. The email address is tom@blowmeuptom.com.
It's the Tom Leykis Show.